All right, so doing this video, I have an Ask HershNoeie where I think they're a longtime subscriber. I mean, I know that they're on our Facebook. Um, and basically, we, I'm sorry, I got a message that came in, so I was trying to read that, and I'm like, what? So this longtime subscriber, they're on our Facebook too. So every now and again we chat back and forth, but they wanted to ask a question of us or of me of how do you go about building a home? Now, this is a little different because typically I give information on, purchasing a home and kind of where to purchase and things to look out for, that type of thing. But building a home is a whole new different thing. If you're going to build a home, there's a lot of benefit for that, right? Because you can technically, depending upon the circumstance, you can customize the home the way that you would like. Now, there's a couple of different things there. If you have a planned community, like a subdivision that's being built, more than likely the developer will have several different blueprints, but there may be 5 different blueprints for a 3-bedroom home, or 2 different blueprints for a 1-bedroom home, or 8 different blueprints for like a 1-bedroom type deal, whatever, right? So they may have different styles, several different styles for homes. And they do that for a couple of different reasons, because some people want a rambler, some people want a 2-story type home, different things, right? So that's good, right? But you have a lot of limitations, right? Because you could choose things like color and type of carpet that you want, the type of fixtures that you want inside of the home and all of that type of stuff, but it's limited. You see what I'm saying? It's very limited based on what they actually get. They may have different things you can pick and choose from, but that developer has their own set of things that they have. So you can customize it to a point. Anything outside of that, typically they're not going to install. So if you found a pretty cool faucet at Home Depot that you really, really want, they may not put it in the home because they have specific suppliers and specific things that they actually use for their home building process, right? So there's a lot of them that are like that. Back in Indiana, there were several, in Indianapolis, there were several different developers that used certain specifics, and that was it. They didn't stray from that. The other option would be to just have a contractor build you a home. This gives you a lot more options because at this point, you're able to design the house layout however you want. You see what I'm saying? It's not just saying, okay, we're going to take the standard 2-car garage and this, that, and the other. You can have a garage on either end of the house. You can do whatever you want to do, right? Pick whatever colors you want, whatever fixtures you want. You can really add and choose and pick whatever you want because that contractor will put in whatever you want to put in there. The issue with that is, unlike having a developer that has everything ready to go, you have to find an architect that's going to generate a lot of times and create that blueprint for you. So they're going to have to basically do the blueprint for the inside and outside of the house, what the outside looks like, what the outside's going to be made out of. That's going to be a question that you have to answer. And it becomes kind of a headache, right? Some contractors don't do the whole build. So unlike the developer where they probably have all that stuff situated, they have all that figured out. If you're going with just a contractor, you have to see if they're going to just do the foundation work because some only do foundation, some don't do foundation. You have to check to see if they're going to do the framing because some contractors do framing, some do not. You have to see if they're going to do drywall or if they're going to subcontract it out. Because if they subcontract it out, that's fine. But it means that you're going to have to really be on top of everything because sometimes other contractors may not be on the up and up, or they may not follow through, or there may be problems. There could be delays, right? So, et cetera, et cetera. Also, all the permits that have to be pulled, you have to make sure that either the main contractor's pulling all the permits needed, or that all these different contractors are pulling permits for plumbing or electrical or framing or the foundation. There's so many different things. You also have to make sure uh, when they act before they do the foundation, the soil has to be graded correctly, right? So all of this stuff has to be done, and all the calls to the city inspectors, different ones have to come out at different periods, different times, take a look, and all of that. All of that stuff can be held up. So that is the difficulty when you're dealing with just a contractor versus a developer that's building several different homes. All of those things you don't typically have to worry about because they're going to complete the home based on what you pick and choose. Some of the developers just build carbon copies of different homes that they want, and you don't have a choice in what is in the home. You just walk through like it's a home for sale and say, I want this house. If that's the case, you have less issues to worry about because you don't have to worry about what permits should have been pulled or whatever, because all of those theoretically have been done for that house to be completed. So those are the two things you have to kind of solve and work your way around. The other big issue for here, because the person does live here, I believe, is in Tacoma and really the Puget Sound region. Finding land is becoming more and more of a challenge. You can find parcels of land for sale, but you're paying a pretty penny for it. You have to make sure that proper drainage and all of that type of stuff. You may look at a particular piece of land and be like, oh, this is a great piece of land, but there could be a reason why that land has not been developed for so long. You'll find spots even in Tacoma where there's never been a house that's been sitting on that land, yet the land is for sale. It's been for sale for a long time, and it could be a reason. It could be that it's in a floodplain or whatever the case may be. So it can be a little overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing and if you don't have the right people in place. Now, with that said, there are other options that you can do. I mean, there's other places, not only just in Tacoma. I've mentioned that over here by the Blueberry Park, they're building all these affordable homes. Affordable. I mean, to some people, they're not going to be, but they're lower now than what the average is. So you have that, but it's a waiting list. And you're basically doing a leasehold type operation where you purchase the home, you own the home, but you don't own the land. So you can't you just sell the house. You have to basically follow their procedures, because what they want to do is make sure if you sell it, that it stays in the loop, that you're not going to oversell it. You're not going to sell it for, $800,000, right? So they have a say in what goes on because they own the land that the house is sitting on. So it's a really cool setup to keep prices in check a little bit. You have that, but you have other cities that are up and coming. DuPont's a good example. That's a city where you've had a lot of developers that have already developed and did everything. And there's plenty of houses available. Condos, townhomes, single family homes, those types of things are all available. And they're all different ranges and sizes. 3-car garages, 2-car garage, 1-car garage, no garage, 2-story, 1-story, several bedrooms, several bathrooms or not. There's so many different options down there because they've had developers come through and really put that community together. But you're paying typically a pretty penny down in DuPont. Why? DuPont is a very nice community. It's actually been ranked #1 by Niche a few years because in terms of livability and just attractiveness. It is a really, really great community. So it's very walkable, right? So it makes it very appealing. The only issue is that as of right now, the only way to get to Tacoma is by taking the interstate or by road. There is no rail connection as of yet, but Sounder Train is actually going to connect in DuPont at some point in the distant future so that you can take the commuter rail up to Tacoma, all the way up to Seattle and beyond if you need to. But that would be the only other issue. You're also by JBLM, which is not necessarily a problem in itself, but JBLM is an active military airfield, so you're going to hear planes taking off. They do practice over there. You'll hear mortar fire, different things. So that's one of those things you have to kind of weigh. The closer you get to the military base, the louder those things are. But other than that, it's a great community. It's right there close to the water and everything else. One of the other ones I mentioned is Ording. Ording is a community that's a little bit kind of further off. It's over on this other side. So if Tacoma's here, DuPont's over here, and Ording is kind of like over in here. And what Ording is a very small community, and it's close to Puyallup and that type of thing, right? Now, with Ording, they've been wanting to develop a large piece of land for quite some time. It hasn't happened. There's more interest in that now, and the developer is going to build over 500 homes there. Now, these are going to be homes that are probably going to be like what I mentioned before, where you're able to actually sit into an office and kind of pick and choose what it is that you want. They're probably going to ask you what your budget is, and then that kind of narrows down the products that they have available for you in terms of the style of house, size of house, all of that. A lot of times where the lot is also determines the price, because different lots obviously are going to be different prices based on location, size, amenities, different things like that. Are you closer to a park? Are you in a roundabout? Not a roundabout, but a cul-de-sac? Are you on a corner lot? You know, all those different things are going to come into play. Obviously, if you have 5 houses here and you're in the middle, that piece of land is going to be cheaper than the house that's on the very end. Things like that, right? Well, the developer, or I don't know if there's going to be several, but the developer that's going to eventually build out there, those homes are probably going to be pretty pricey. So again, it's one of those things where you have to go back to, if you're going to just buy a house in general, you have to make sure that everything is in alignment. You have to make sure your credit is pretty good. Anything that's outstanding, you have to make sure that's correct. Make sure you get a great realtor, because that really does help. Make sure that you find a good mortgage person, because that is a problem. Sometimes the mortgage person is probably the more important of anything, because sometimes a mortgage person or a bank or whatever can take forever to get something done. You know, we had a mortgage officer who was it this house? I think it was this house. No, it was the house in New Mexico. The one company took forever dragging their feet to get it done and just couldn't get it done. And then we went to these other people and they were able to get the house done in 15 days. It was quick. Sometimes the bigger companies take a lot longer. So big banks, they have a lot of people. The girls are playing games. They have a lot of people that are, you know, something lands on their desk, it goes under a big stack of papers, and they work from oldest to newest. So it passes several hands before it gets to where it needs to go. Some of the smaller firms, you have less people. You have folks that really want to churn and burn, literally. The more contracts they get done, the more money they get, the faster they can move on. And a lot of those companies end up selling to another mortgage company anyway, or a finance company. So anyway, too much information, but I would say those are all the things that you definitely need to consider. You want to make sure that even with a new home, inspections are things that you have to do, because you never know. Some contractors aren't that great. There are plenty of stories of contractors who built a whole new home and even a whole new apartment building and failed. There were so many issues with the build of that home. So inspections still have to be done. Don't just think, well, it's a brand new build, doesn't need that. You're still going to want to make sure inspections are done, because there could be a lot of issues hidden that you don't know about. Trust me, contractors can easily do things and you would never have a clue. You wouldn't even know where to look unless you're trained in that area. So make sure that you have all those things checked. Even though the city will definitely check a lot of those things, it's probably a good idea just to make sure that you have inspections anyway. But anyhow, hope that answers your question in terms of building a home. There's a lot of different things you have to look out for, but it does offer a lot of different flexibility for you. As long as you have the finances there, and as long as you can deal with the headache that it can possibly generate, there are a couple of different options that you can do. Make sure you join our Discord, because we talk about a lot of different things. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.